Welcome to Relationship Unscripted. We're dropping truth bombs about the good, the not so good, and of course,
what the hell is wrong with your relationship?
You don't know what you don't know.
Or you may need to have several seats and get your life together.
Who does know? Well, we do. So let's talk about it. This is Relationship Unscripted with that dude, your host, Coach Ken.
Ain't no lies being told here today. It's Relationship Unscripted with that dude, Coach Ken.
Yo, what's up, everybody? What's good? This is your guy, that dude, Coach Ken. This is Relationship Unscripted. Now, as I always do, I don't like getting on a podcast just to be talking. I don't like necessarily hearing myself talk. And one of the things that really would bother me if somebody gets on a podcast and they're giving out bad information. So I wanted to make certain that I did all of my homework. I had some semblance of what I am talking about. And so I can have a very intelligent conversation with our guest today on our podcast. And I'm going to call her Kris because that's her name. Kris is an extraordinary young lady, wonderful heart. She is someone that always carries herself with tremendous character. And so when the topic of saving yourself for marriage and virginity and all these sorts of things came up as a potential topic, I couldn't think of anyone better. She has articulated her position to me in different conversations that we've had very well. And so I'm hoping that translates today in our podcast. So that being said, let's welcome Kris to the podcast. What's up, Kris?
What's up? What's up? Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
welcome.
Excited.
Oh, you're welcome. The blessing and the privilege is all ours. We're going to finally get a chance to talk about this whole virginity thing, because I know you and I have had some conversations, and but I found it interesting, which is why we are going to talk today, because I wanted people to get an understanding and to hear it actually from someone that's actively on this path. What are some of the things that, you run into? What led you to your decision? Just a lot of things. So let's start with this. You don't necessarily have to give location or anything like that. But let's talk about what led you to your decision of saving yourself for marriage. Let's start there.
Well, great question. I am a believer of God and Jesus Christ. So my decision actually stemmed from my beliefs in the Bible. I believe that God created or designed sex for marriage. So as I moved along in life, I eventually stepped away from religion, but that principle actually stuck with me.
Okay. All right. So it's interesting, and we coming out the gates hot, because you have mentioned religion, which again takes me to church, and immediately the church can tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. The church is not always good at executing what needs to be done, because my church life has told me that behind the scenes on Sunday they're saying don't have sex, but Monday through Saturday night, it's jumping off, especially in the church.
Exactly.
So for you to be able to, again, and I'm not throwing off on the church. What I'm getting at is that for you to still be able to muddle through what I would consider mixed messages that the church sometimes gives.
Yes.
Says a lot about you and your decision. So you've arrived at a space where you've decided that I'm going to save myself for marriage. Now,
yes.
Is this a weird concept? I mean, for you, let me not use the word weird, because it's not weird. It's not abnormal, but
for a lot of people,
it's so in our day and time where we have this sexualized society, it's unusual. Would you agree with that?
Oh, most definitely. I think 98% of the people in the world do not abstain from sex before marriage. And I have definitely been categorized as a red flag for wanting to wait. So
Okay. Now, that's interesting. Now, when you say red flag, this is where we start to get all off into these myths and all those sort of things. So talk to me about, what do they mean when they say red flags?
Oh my goodness. Basically a warning sign. Most of the guys that I have gone out with, or I was in a talking stage with, every time I told them that I wanted to wait, it was an immediate no. For some people, for some guys, they had to kind of sit on it a little bit, and they were not sure, but they're not used to that. And a lot of them don't like the fact that I'm inexperienced. So that's where the red flags come up.
Okay, gotcha. Now, I know somebody's wondering. Now, y'all are out to dinner, so to speak, right? Now, are you telling this? Are you saying out? Have you eaten up this man's money, and now you're going to get to the end and say, oh, "That was a delicious steak"? And oh, by the way, I'm a virgin. I mean, how does this work? When does it come up in the conversation?
Yes, that's a great question. So it's come up at different times, but for the most part, it's come up pretty early. And I do want to make something clear. When I have gone out on dates, I never let the guy pay for me unless he really, really wanted to. But I always contributed, because guys have this thing where, and I don't agree with it, but they have this thing where if a woman is not going to have sex with them, they're not going to pay for anything. So that's the world that we live in today. So I just make sure I put my credit card out there. But I tell them in advance. Sometimes I tell them when the subject comes up, when the guy brings it up. And most times guys bring that subject up very early, very, very early, within, I would say, the first 3 dates. Wow. But I've also found myself telling guys on the first date. So yeah, I try to get that out the way pretty early, because I don't want to go along and then they find out later and then my heart is broken. Okay. So I'm curious now, because I really don't know the answer to this. What, if you think about the different dates that you have been in, what is the earliest that you've told someone on that first date? I mean, has the waiter come over and we've asked for water and extra lemon and then you said it? Or what's the earliest you can recall of a date ending because you said, you know what, that ain't happening today, Chief, and probably not for a while. So, actually, we can go even earlier. First conversation.
Oh my. Okay. All right. Talk to us. Let us know. How did that go?
There was this one guy, he seemed pretty cool. He was a teacher, and I was like, okay. He wanted to do a FaceTime. And so I said, yeah, sure. You know, I always love to do a FaceTime, especially before I meet up with someone these days. Sure. But you never know. But we did a FaceTime, and he started talking, and I can't remember how the subject came up, but it came up. And I told him, I was like, you know what, I'm waiting until marriage. And he was like, oh, no. I can't do that, you know. And after that conversation, that was it. It was done. That we didn't even get a chance to meet after that. So yeah, that's the earliest I would say.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let me, because I know the people are probably wondering this. So where are you meeting these guys? I mean, is it like, you know, newdude.com? Is it like, you know, let me holler at a sister.org? I mean, what's going on? What's going on?
Well, something like that, you know, these online dating sites, well, actually apps for me. That's where I have met the majority of guys. It's just, I'm an introvert, so I'm very much to myself most of the time. I don't get out a whole lot. So that was like the best way to meet people and meet a variety of people. So,
okay.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not on.
Okay, now I'm doing duck lips here. I'm doing duck lips.
Okay.
Because again, what is a good Christian girl such as yourself
Mm.
doing on dating sites now? Because you can't talk about the Lord and then come back telling us about dating sites. Now, come on now, make it make
Ooh.
sense.
You know what? What's funny is that you're not the only person. I have had guys on the dating apps, multiple guys ask me, what are you doing on here? Like just within our initial conversation, they could pick up, I guess, me, who I am, what I represent. It's so weird how they could pick that up so quickly. But they've been like, what are you doing on here? I'm on here for love. I don't know about anybody else. Well, I do now, but that's why I was on there, because I genuinely believe that I could find the love of my life on these sites. And like I said, I don't get out much, so I didn't know any other way to do it. I'm like, how am I gonna meet people? So that's why I ended up on the sites. I'm not on there anymore.
Okay.
Last time I was on there was last year. After that, the last person I went out with, I was done. So can't do it no more.
Said done, finite.
Done.
Okay. And so how do you meet guys now? I mean, would you be opposed to just walking up to someone and just saying, hey, how you doing? That's a nice suit. I'm glad your shoes match your socks. I mean, what is it that you do when you see someone that you might be interested in?
Oh, well, I'm kind of shy. So sometimes I want to say something to a guy, and I have even sensed guys wanting to say something to me, but they're just as shy as I am. So I don't really, this is what I try to do these days, because I really want the guy to approach me.
Okay.
I'm very old fashioned.
Okay.
So I try to just keep a happy face. I try to smile at everyone. And I think those smiles go a long way. Because just the other day, I was walking towards the bus stop, and I always pass this one building, and this guy, he always sees me pass. And one day he was just like, he looked at me because he was trying to help somebody else, but he made sure that he got my attention. He was like, good morning. And I was like, good morning. You know, I put a smile on my face. So I try to just have a really joyful demeanor, because I think that can attract men.
Oh, it definitely gonna attract some men. They're gonna be like, yeah, it's going down. That's what they think. It's definitely going to attract some men, because again, in this sexualized society, they see somebody that's friendly. They like, well, I'm gonna see how friendly she really is. And then you ordering off the right side of the menu.
I know,
and
right?
then you're like, hey, by the way, I know I ordered steak and lobster, but just so we clear, I'm a virgin. So yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And I am getting dessert. I'm ordering dessert too. But okay, so let's shift gears just for a moment.
Okay.
Let's understand some of the things that you may run into as far as being a woman, a Black woman in a major city.
Yes.
So if y'all wondering why she's walking to the bus stop, it's because where she lives is in a metropolis ation, right? So no need for a vehicle. Everything is like there. Exactly. So, all right. So talk to us about some of the things you run into as not only just the dating, just what are some of the myths? Because I know in our conversations, after you have told guys your intentions of saving yourself for marriage, they have some thoughts of what that means or why. What are some of the things that you've heard?
As to why, guys?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Ooh. A lot of things. Where do I start? Okay, so some guys have told me that they don't want to, quote unquote, train a woman how to be sexual. They believe that if you're inexperienced, that you will be no good when you're married. And they say, sex is just so important in a marriage, in a relationship. And if you're not good, then it's just gonna lead to the demise of the relationship. Then I've heard guys say something completely different. I've heard guys say that they were afraid that, hypothetically speaking, if we were to get married, that I would become addicted to it, and that I would want to go cheat on them. I would want to explore other partners because I haven't explored multiple partners before marriage.
That is the dumbest damn thing. I mean, I'm just going to pause right there, because again, just some of the things that we come up with just as people, because I want to be clear, the door can swing both ways. You have men that have decided to keep themselves for marriage, and women as well. But what I'm finding in doing my research and diving into this is that a lot of what we understand this to be is just some bad information. And so when somebody says something like you'll be addicted and a parent, I'm like, where are you getting this from? Was there like some study that was held at Harvard or something like that where they interviewed 15 virgins and this is what happened? I'd heard some things such as, you can't get rid of them. They're going to be clingy. And again, like, where are you getting any of this? Sir, you are not clingy worthy. You're not, which is not necessarily, but you're not that. But then I've also heard guys that will say, I want a woman that's experienced.
Yes.
And when that is being said, I'm like, so what experience are you bringing to the table? Here's the challenge with that statement, right? Is that what's her over or under? Are we saying you want her to have one person experience? I mean, what's her body count that will be adequate for you to be able to say she's had experience? Now, the trouble is if she goes over your body count, now she a hoe. Like, you can't, and we all know you can't make a hoe a housewife. That's another podcast. But this is a situation that a lot of young ladies, I think in this moment, find themselves into, and I don't want to get too far off the topic, but when they fall for these lines for men to advance themselves sexually, let me be clear, is that this is the way the game is played. I'm just going to call it what it is. And if a woman happens to fall for it, then she finds out he's not all what he is. This is why the decision that you've made for me as a bystander is so important, because there's too much on the line if this guy's coming with lines. There's too much out there. And so another thing I've heard guys say is, well, I don't even know how it is. I want to be able to try it first. Try it first, my man. This is not, we're not trying to buy a Granada, a Chrysler 300. You can't drive it, then be like, nah, the engine sound like it's knocking. I ain't gonna get it. It needs some new tires. The interior not clean. I mean, come on, man. So, but realistically, I also have heard about the degree of pressure that men feel that comes with dealing with someone that has not experienced any level of sexual activity.
Yep.
Now, I would say that's real, but it's real in their head because they're thinking that, okay, she has to be this and she has to be that. And just in their mind, all of this is really happening. And but I've yet to have a guy that said, I had a situation with a virgin and I was her first and I had a very horrible outcome. Okay. But most guys, not the case. Nope. And then why would you think, I would be interested to know from you, why would a woman not date a male virgin? What are your thoughts on that? Because I've heard women say that as well, like, nah, that's all right. Why is that?
You know what? I am not completely sure because I actually have no problem dating another virgin. Like, that would be wonderful if I could find a guy that isn't a virgin, but reality is most guys are not, and most women are not either. So I'm not sure, but I think some women may not want to date male virgins because they actually want that experience. They want that man to be experienced. They want that man to kind of take the lead. I'm not completely sure though, because I don't care. My brain is not there. Like, I would love to date a virgin.
Awesome. Hey, everyone, we are here with Kris. We're talking about being a virgin and keeping yourself for marriage. And we will be right back right after this. This is Relationship Unscripted.
Play no games, tell no lies. It's Relationship Unscripted with your host, that dude, Coach Ken.
So, Kris, let me ask you this question. I couldn't help but notice that you are kind of dressed up today, and I appreciate. I always appreciate when folks put on for my podcast. I appreciate that. But let me ask you this: what is that you got going? Is it a date thing happening, or what you got going on that, or is this normal? I don't want to assume. Is this normal day to day for you? What's happening with you?
Well, I mean, I definitely love dressing up. No, actually, I have my little self-love. I shouldn't say little, my self-love or solo date tonight, every Saturday.
Whoa. Solo date.
Yes, my solo date. Basically, it's either every Friday or every Saturday. I will do something, whether it's ordering my favorite food, watching a movie, lighting some candles, or when it gets warmer, I'm actually going to start going out to restaurants and just enjoying myself, doing things by myself. Because it actually helps me to realize that I can rely on my own self to be happy. Even though I would love to date someone, I don't necessarily need that.
Okay. Now, you said you would love to date someone. So are you dating now, as of this moment, this podcast? Are you dating?
No, not as can't even talk. Not at the moment.
I got her shook, y'all. I got her shook.
I'm stuttering over here.
But you are open to dating. Is that correct?
I am very open.
Okay.
Yes.
But you're not dating anybody as of this moment. Okay.
No,
Now, let me shift gears. What do women tend to think about you being a virgin? Because again, I don't know how that conversation would play out with two women, but I can only imagine if you know what, I'm going to hold that thought till I hear your feedback. Okay. What do women tend to think about you and this whole journey that you're on?
Surprisingly, women, I would say most women have actually agreed with the fact that I'm waiting until marriage. And I have had women tell me that they wish they had waited. So it's mostly the men that are very critical, but women, they have been like, yes, girl, keep going. I wish I could have done the same.
Okay. Because again, Pookie, Earl, Craig, and Ray, they seemed like they was good dudes. They said all the right things, but 4 kids later, here I am, so that sister is stuck, and my heart goes out to them sisters. I'm like, oh my Lord. So again, that's another podcast. Now, let me ask you this. You talked a little earlier about part of your decision to take this path and this journey was you had left the church. You had stepped away from the church. And let me be clear. I want to be very clear when I say this. When I say, and when you hear her say she stepped away from the church, she didn't go to a life of wilding out. Let me be very clear. She just started her path of really finding out what is it that she believed, because again, quick backstory is that she had grown up in church and she arrived at a point where she said to herself, okay, this is what I've always been told. What do I really believe? And so she took a step back to get into a journey of self to just figure out who she was and what she believed. And so when you hear her say she stepped away from the church, that's what she's saying. I want to be very clear about that. But with that being your foundation, and now that you've stepped away from church, has there been any additional things that have presented itself that have solidified your decision to save yourself from marriage?
Well, yes. And it's actually in harmony with what you mentioned previously about Pookie and Ray Ray with the 4 kids. So I definitely think it protects me from unwanted pregnancies. If I do have a child, I'm not sure if I want that, but I want to have the option. And if I do, I want it to be with my husband. On top of that, I think it protects me from STDs. I can't tell you the amount of people that have told me that they caught a little something,
something. Being out in these streets, I'm telling you.
Being out here,
streets is crazy.
So it definitely protects me from that. And one thing I think about daily is that I shouldn't say daily, but sometimes the bond that forms between a man and a woman, that emotional and physical bond or attachment, whatever you want to call it. And I know that when I'm in a relationship, I'm all in, so if I were to actually do that with someone in a relationship, I need that to be my husband. Like, I want to give all of that and experience that close bond with my husband.
You know, what's interesting, I know there's at least one woman out there that will probably say, girl, I did the same thing. I wanted my first time to be special, and it was nothing like that. So are you're willing to take that chance, though, I guess, for lack of a better term, that, you know, it's going to be 50-50. It could be the best experience you've had, as far as you know, because it'll be the only experience you've had. Or you can be like, I waited all this time and that's it. Now, let me ask you this. Do you mind telling people how old you are?
Yes, I'm 34.
34, 34.
Mid-30s.
So do you find it harder dating in your 30s? Yes. Okay, so let's be clear. Let's set the timeline for the people. You're leaving the church, making the decision to go on a self journey to figure out who you are, to gain some perspective of self. So you leave the church at approximately step away from the church at approximately what age?
27.
27. So from 27 to now 34, you've been on this journey to meet someone and be in a relationship, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay. Any regrets? Would you do anything differently now that you look back on this journey? Would you have done anything differently?
From 27 to 34, there are a few things I would have done differently. But okay, so answering your first question, would I have done anything differently? Yes, I would have chosen different partners for relationships. I would have chosen partners who were 100% on the same page as I am.
Now, what does that mean? 100% on the same page? Another virgin, or what are we talking about?
Someone that's waiting until marriage. She doesn't have to be a virgin, but someone who is practicing abstinence and who's willing to do that on that same page. The people that I've dated, I wasn't so much focused on that. Because before this whole self-love journey, I was too focused on finding love. So I wasn't thinking about those core values. So I would have done that differently. Now, whether or not I have regrets, you know, hold on.
It's okay. Take your time.
What was the first question? You asked two questions in one, and I was about to answer the other one.
Well, you done got all off into the good stuff now, so you can just stay with this one, because we all are on edge. You got our undivided attention, because we thought we was going to get some tears and some ugly crying, you know. And I'm like, man, she just made the podcast go up 27 points just by adding this extra emotion. So, you know. But again, as far as, you know, you talked about the church and stepping away from the church and what has been a part of your decision at this point to just kind of stay where you are in your lane. And what I'm asking you is, you stepped away from the church at about 27. You're now 34. Is there anything you would have done differently in that window as you look back? What are some of the lessons that you've learned, I guess is the way I can phrase that question.
Oh, yes. You know what? My thought came back to me. So this is what I was going to say, because I want to be really honest, because I don't want people to think that this has been very easy. It's been incredibly hard. There were times where I thought twice about my decision to wait until marriage. There were times where I was just like, you know what? I think I want to be out in these streets with everybody else. I felt like there were a lot of times where I felt like less of a woman because because I'm not experienced, because I'm a virgin. So it's been tough. And I think people need to realize that it's not the easiest thing when you have the majority of people in the world not doing that. And you have like this small percentage of men and women who are. And then on top of that, I personally would love to be married one day. Not being able to find that, or that person finding me, I should say, because I decide to wait, that's tough. So do I have regrets? I don't, for waiting and holding on as hard as it is. No, I don't have regrets holding on, because I do believe that the benefits outnumber anything else that the world is trying to tell me. Oh, you're going to feel good. It's going to feel great. You don't know what you're missing out on. I've heard it all. But I think that it's more beneficial to just be patient and stick to my core values.
So I'm going to go ahead and jump out there and just put this statement out there because I'm a firm believer of this particular thing that I've concluded through coaching. And I really think that, and I know I've said this 3 times, make this the 4th time I'm going to say this because it's another podcast, but sex is very overrated in a relationship. And every relationship goes through 7 phases. That's a podcast that's already out there. Y'all need to check it out. I've already uploaded that one. But there is 7 phases that a relationship goes through. There is the initial meeting, the discovery, and let me break this down. Initial meeting is, hey, what's up, girl? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. We exchange information. The second phase is discovery. You're trying to find out who they are, what their social media presence is, who know them, what can you find out about them. If all that checks out, we move to phase 3, which is the basic agreement of connection or interaction. And that's how we're going to be messaging each other, and are we sending good morning texts and calling and visits, and how often are we going to hang out, and if we're going to post any pictures on social media, or what the rules with that. If we go through that for a short period and we're successful there, then we move to the 4th one, which is agreed upon terms. What is this? What are we doing? Is this friends with benefits? I need more. This is not enough for me. Can we take this up a notch? So what's the agreed upon terms? So like, okay, we're going to be a couple. All right, cool. Now we move to phase 5, which is the understanding of commitment. So we're a couple, but what does that mean? We're an item, we're a thing, we're a relationship, we're a couple, but what does that mean? So what's the rules and the boundaries now that need to be created? Do all of a sudden he need to get rid of all those chicks on his Instagram page? Do you need to stop hanging out with your friend that's playing like he's gay, but he's really not? Stuff like that. Then you get to phase 6, which is the becoming stage, where we are matured, and now what's next for us? And what's interesting, how I'm tying all this together, is when you get to the becoming stage, meaning we are now a couple and we're now looking to elevate and grow, sex normally starts to dial back at that particular point. So sex may have gotten you through phase 1 through 5, but when you get to phase 6, the becoming stage, that's when sex no longer is a glue or a focus. So it may start out, those first few phases, it may be in the top 2, top 3. But as you move to the becoming stage, for a lot of people, it starts to fall below the 5th thing. So you just have other priorities. So when I say that sex is overrated, I mean, we give it way too much power. And so when I hear people saying that they're keeping themselves for marriage, when I hear people saying that they may have had sex once, but now they're practicing abstinence, it is something that I understand very clearly takes tremendous willpower. So when you say it's not easy, people need to understand. Matter of fact, it's somebody listening to this that's just got fresh off a session from last night. No shade, fresh off a session. Matter of fact, might be somebody listening to this in the middle of a session. I don't know y'all's life. But what I'm getting at is that in a lot of instances, sex manages people, and people have the inability to manage sex. And so if this were drugs and somebody were taking these drugs, we'd be like, man, you're a drug addict. You need to go get help. But sex is that agreed upon drug in our society that, most people are good with, but it has wrecked and ruined some lives because people are not able to manage that particular aspect of their person. So I'm not saying not do it. I'm not saying to do it. I'm not saying it ain't great and all that good stuff with the right person. I'm simply saying sex has gotten a lot of people into some bad situations. Thus that sister with 4 kids.
Yes.
But again,
yes.
That's another podcast. Let me ask you this. I'm about to be in your business here because I know somebody else is wondering this. So I'm going to ask you, and you don't have to go into detail, but how close have you come to just saying, you know what, this whole be a virgin thing ain't working. Me being Jane the Virgin ain't working for me no more. So we got to do something else, because, you know, I mean, I'm sure you're seeing other people, you know, getting married and in relationships and they're flourishing.
Yeah.
And the only thing that they may be doing that you're not doing is that physical act. So how, may I ask respectfully, how close have you come?
Well, I would be lying if I said that I don't think about it. I have been on dates, and if I'm attracted to a man and I think this is just natural, I'm attracted to him. So sometimes my brain goes there. I'm like, oh, I got to catch myself. I think it's natural for the human body to feel that urge. So I have definitely felt the urge. But it just did not supersede my core values, my commitment to waiting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. Big ups to you. I salute
in there,
you.
In the brain.
Okay. I salute you. I appreciate your honesty, because again, when you, and this is, you know, what's interesting, this is the challenge in church, is that, you know, you got people that got smoke coming out their draws, and I'm just supposed to, you know, come to, a visit to church on a Sunday is going to alleviate the smoke in said draws. And it don't work like that. It's some purposeful things that need to happen. But again, my experience has been in the church, you know, sex is real. Yeah. And I don't think necessarily the church is always equipped to have that conversation to a degree where it just needs to be just out there. And so just because mother in the church has been with her husband for 27 years does not equip her to be the one to lead the sexual education class in said church. Right. But, you know, that's what churches do. But again, that's something else. But I feel very passionate about that, about the church keeping it real and just saying, hey, here's what's happening. So just saying don't do it is a message, but the grown folks and everybody else and people in the pulpit and otherwise are doing it. So it's a very mixed message that we send to our kids. So for those people that have taken it upon themselves to think it through and figure out what's best for them and living their best life in their truth, people such as yourself, I salute and applaud you. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we already wrap our call up. I thank you very much. This is the call with Lord Jesus, the podcast with Kris. Her and I are on a call and we're doing the podcast. But Kris, this is the portion of our podcast we call the last call. And last call is for whomever we're talking to. And in this case, you, to be able to say what you want to say with the people that might be listening. The only rule that we have is say it with your chest. So you got it. Say what you need to say. What is it that you want the people to know as we get ready to get out of here?
I want people to know that being a virgin, or some people have a problem with that word, so I'll say being inexperienced, it's not a bad thing. It's not a red flag. It doesn't mean that that person will not enjoy their husband or their wife later. It means none of those things. It's just a personal choice. And I think people need to stop being judgmental, especially of people who are wanting to wait. And for those who are wanting to wait, stick to your core values. Don't let the world pressure you to do otherwise, because when you do something against your standards, that's the biggest regret in life, in my opinion.
Well said. So I'm going to wrap our podcast with that. What I want people to do is just get out and educate yourselves. There's just a lot of misinformation as it pertains to virgins and what you think that you want. But there's a difference between what you want and what you need. And my challenge with this whole virginity thing is that when you are looking for a quality spouse, then you are looking for the Krises of the world, someone that is about character, somebody that is about beauty, smart, and really just trying to live life right. And so in my mind as a man, it would be a tremendous plus to be able able to take a woman somewhere and not have to have her, hey girl, who's that? Oh, that was my old boyfriend. Who is that? Oh, that's a dude I was in a relationship 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago, whatever. You don't have to even deal with all of that. And so I'll say this, let's stop getting sex and connection confused, because I think that when people are looking for connection, they're getting that confused with sex, only to find out that they don't have either. They don't enjoy either. So Christina, continue to stay on your journey, your self-love journey, seek that connection. Myself and the rest of the kinologists, as far as this podcast is concerned, we 1000% send you all kind of good energy. And again, keep doing what you're doing, because somebody needs to know it's 1000% possible. Not easy, but it is possible to keep yourself and wait for that right one to come along. And I believe, based on what I know about you, that you'll know when that happens. Let's let everyone know how they can reach out to you, because guys, she has this blog channel that she's on, where she rocking fashion, she's talking makeup and all these different things. Now, I myself, I'm not on there trying to figure out what kind of dress I need, because I don't get down like that. But for those of you that are looking for a great follow for fashion, for her critique on different things, she's definitely somebody to follow. So get her onto your favorites list. Christina, how can these different people get to you? I know you have a couple of different handles, but how can they get to you?
Actually, all of my handles are Kris Nicole Style, and that's Kris with a K, Kris, Nicole, Nicole, Style, Style.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from Relationship Unscripted, you can follow us on Instagram. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Hey! It's the Relationship Unscripted